This is Lucas Ryder, executive producer and writer of episode 808, Ogden Greely. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Does anybody have a map? Naval Command is flying blind as they go. Welcome, everybody, to the award-winning The Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I am Agent Aaron Peterson, and they mentioned both my favorite movie of all time, which is Rear Window, just so you know, as well as my favorite director of all time, which is Alfred Hitchcock, in case you didn't know. Ergo, welcome to the greatest episode of The Blacklist ever. Thank you for joining us yet again for number 40 on The Blacklist, Ogden Greely, written by Lucas Ryder and directed by Michael Caracciolo. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's been a grand season so far, and this week is no different. We will go ahead and break down our profiling question from last week. We will then get into the case profile for Ogden Greely, then a new segment that we call Cooper's Chronicles, and then we will move into Special Agent Intel. And yes, by the end of the season, I'm sure we're going to have Parks Pastorals or something. I don't know. I got to come up with a P.
Parks Pastorals.
A P thing for park at some point.
Okie doke. All right. Well, our profiling question from the last episode was, will Red kill Cooper? 88% said no. 12% said yes. The only problem is the 12% didn't speak up as to why they thought so. If you're going to buck the trend, you have to stand up for what you believe in Cooper Death Wishers.
Yeah. I was shocked to see that we actually broke 12. I thought it was like maybe like 3 or 4%. We're going to be like, oh yeah, he'll totally kill Cooper. But I was like, when it broke 10%, I was like, oh, some people really, really think that it's going to happen. Or maybe like Nathan, he just wants it to happen badly because he wants some prime character to die.
Sure, could be. I mean, do we really think that's going to happen? I don't think he would hurt.
Not after this week. They're like best buds. The bros.
Yeah, some of you had some comments to flesh it out. Phil Houghton said Cooper got Red off the death penalty. Red owes him.
It's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep.
Red won't kill Cooper or anyone on the task force from Sharon. He will take out the friend in the East first.
Agreed. I think that's what'll happen. Shelley Arnaud and no, Raymond will not kill Cooper, but she doesn't really give any reasons. So I don't even know why you included that one, but thank you.
Because she wrote in. Michelle Jones said, I do not believe Red will kill Cooper. If for no other reason, he needs Coop's help to find Liz.
And Reno said, maybe, and then he can have surgery and take over as Cooper running the task force. Bazinga! That's a nod to you. Our question for next week, will we see Anne again? Aw.
Yeah, Anne was a nice character. The question now becomes, when we get into our character conversation, is, does Anne actually have any other purpose, or was it just a setup for this episode? We'll see.
Anne.
We'll see.
I hope Anne comes back, and for season 9, it's just Red and Anne off on adventures.
Could be.
And romance. It becomes like a Remington Steele. Or something.
They'll turn into a Daniel Steele novel then after the fact. But before the birds make their own decision matrix, let's go ahead and get into this week's case profile.
You get bonus points if you really understood Troy's Daniel Steele reference. All right, case profile. A Navy operation in Iceland is where we kick off. A large ship over 1,000 feet doesn't communicate, nor is detected. Then it disappears. Then we got another one. Then it's seeming attacked by an inbound missile. Then nothing. It's a hoax. It's absolutely a hoax. The bidding will be open for 36 hours. Yeah, that's right. What we have here is the National Reconnaissance Office used to employ a man named Greely. Used to work for him, knows everything about this country's satellite technology because he wrote the code for a lot of it. And he's going to one-up Snowden by selling these secrets to foreign enemies so they may exploit our weaknesses and make the government leaders listen up. Basically, I'm going to get some people killed so the government pays attention. That's the plan here. The bidding will end soon, so it's up to our team, mostly Ressler and Park, to bring it down. There's a woman in the middle, of course, Mia Kurilenko, and she's also their lead. So what did you think about this basic construct. I mean, this was honestly one of those episodes where, people hate the term filler, but this is a one-off. It's a standalone. There is a lot of good character stuff in it, though. And what did you think about the central plot this episode?
The central plot I thought was very interesting. I think that there's definitely a little bit of hype, if you will. Space, right? We just landed on Mars, saw some color photographs from Mars for the first time. So having a space episode this week, I think seemed kind of appropriate because that's literally everything that we do, right? We spy on other countries and we know when stuff's coming in and Star Wars. And I think it's a very relevant topic. So I think from a relevancy perspective, it was good this week. I think the concept of hacking the system, especially with the solar winds and all the things that they got hacked into recently, I thought it's a very timely from a news event also. We don't do much rip from the headlines kind of stuff here on the Blacklist, but in this case, it felt very close to that. At the same time, I think that one thing was missing in this episode was that we've been on a very much a traditional season one where everything was kind of one nugget leading to the next nugget to the next nugget in the Liz Caper storyline. And this was the first episode where we just kind of was like, no, nothing really in here matters to anything else in the overall arc of season 8. So I think that's why people will probably classify this one as a filler. But overall, I thought it was also very telling in the state of mind that Red is in at this point in his journey. He's tired. He has the illness. He just wants to slow down. Can he actually find a quiet place in the world to just settle and be himself? And I think that kind of gives us a little bit of glimpse into Red's psyche and what he's all dealing with at this moment. Yeah,
it was one of those where I didn't dislike anything about it, but I honestly was just more interested in Cooper and Red's storyline for this episode. Everything else felt kind of less important, I guess. I mean, yeah, it was important, but I was just really enamored with the character stuff this week. I just thought that was really, really strong.
And this is where you get into the concepts of, does everything else have a second meaning? Because people are trying to figure out, like,
where does this all get into it?
Well, I mean, you sit back and you go, well, where does this all fit? And I think the one struggle I had with this episode was when they came to Greely's house and talking to his wife, and oh no, he's a company man. He's been with the NSA forever. Like, there's no way he would do any of this stuff. And apparently he wasn't on the up and up because he was easily tempted by this Russian woman seducing him to sell secrets about the country.
Did you see her? Let's go easily seduce. I mean, yeah, I get it. I get it. Country, Mia Gorilenko. All right. But sorry, country.
I think that was supposed to be like Russian woman tied to a military operation person. So, I mean, there's like themes and parallelisms that you can pull from.
Yeah, there's a little nod there.
Yeah. So, I mean, but the problem, the
obvious, go
ahead.
Damn, it's like a wind-up toy, man. The obvious indication from that is that has reflections of Red, because later when Dembe is talking to him, as he's thinking about Anne, and there's been a lot of that in several episodes this year since Liz left. We've had a lot of those undercurrent themes, and you got that whole conversation where Dembe's like, you had that life, you gave it up, you had an ordinary life, you walked away from it years ago, you can't do that again, she'll get hurt, and that is kind of remnants of this whole situation with Greely and his wife, and what he's basically having this woman, like what you're alluding to,
right? And I think that conversation I think is huge as well, because then that can be applied to the different theory camps and where you want to land, because then you're talking about how if you're in the Red Arena camp, it's like Katarina tried to settle down with Kirk, she had a kid, and then she had to walk away from that.
No, it doesn't fit to me, but you go ahead.
Or it could be, people keep coming back to the Tacoma house, that Red had a family in the Christmas Eve story, and Diane Fowler knows what happened to the family. So that could be him trying to settle down, whoever this imposter is, because he's not Raymond Reddington, the OG naval officer. So, he tried to settle down, and, it still crept up and found him. And that's why he had to flee and turn into Reddington or whatever. So there's definitely some things about Red's past in that conversation about settling down and having a normal life. The Mexican cavefish story comes to mind. Will he ever see the light again? Could he come home? Elizabeth is his home, and now Elizabeth is on the run.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, Greely becomes a target via the disposition matrix. There's the matrix again. The federal kill list.
New show this fall.
It really does sound like something that would be coming to NBC this fall after the Blacklist. Targeted killing of an American citizen. Is that the right answer? I mean, they really got to that pretty quick.
Getting to the fact that they wanted to invoke the decision matrix, or
yeah. It was very, very quickly got. And Aram's like, "Don't do that. That's bad. Don't do that." And everybody's like, "Nah, it's fine. Let's do it. Let's take him out." We arrived at that very quickly. I get why. I'm just I just felt like we came to that decision very quickly. But at least we had Aram there trying to.
But this show's never been a slow moving, slow plotting.
I know. I get it. Yeah, I'm with you.
I was more intrigued in they got the White House that looks exactly the same as it did in season 6. So kudos for the set being the same.
Same White House.
Yep.
So I wouldn't see why it would change.
But I thought it was really intriguing how they were going to get
maybe more gold now.
But I thought it was really intriguing how they got the president on the line and then conveniently cut away because they hadn't actually cast a new president. So who is the new president, since we know what happened at the end of season 6?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. I mean, I think they showed him, right?
No, he was on the speakerphone.
Oh,
Two congressmen or senators or joint chiefs or whatever were up on the screens. And then they cut to the speakerphone. It's like, "Mr. President, what's your decision?" Cut away. And I was like, who's the president? Who's running the country?
Let's us fill in the blanks. They don't want to be part of that debate.
No.
We're not even getting into it, guys. You're still arguing amongst yourselves. We don't want any part of it.
So, yeah, I thought that's creative.
Plus, you know what, Troy? Maybe when they were filming it, they just didn't know yet. They were still unsure. That's possible.
They were like, "Crap, decision matrix, president. Oh, we haven't cast him yet. He's coming in 8/21 or something."
Maybe. Well, it comes to find out that Red and Dembe are the ones buying the intel, so Cooper has them stand down on the assassination, which is a pretty bold move. But that's really what happens this episode, because Red buys those secrets and then sells them back to America for $155 million. So he got a $5 million profit. Good for him. I like the friends and family discount line. That was pretty clever. $200 million. All right, $175 million friends and family discount.
Did you think Red was going to show up? Was that a tell or no? Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I was kind of curious, how do you get out of this one? How them Duke boys going to get out of this one? Because you just basically told everybody that this was the answer, and now you're telling him to back off just because he's a regular old criminal. I don't think that would fly if they really had already committed to it, personally.
I thought the writing was actually really creative and good, though, around the fact that the decision matrix was invoked in order to kill an American citizen if he was selling it to a country. And then since Red's not a country, how Cooper used that then as the debate to say, well, we can't kill him now because he's not actually selling it to a country. So I think
I don't think that would work.
They didn't quite write themselves into a corner. It was close, but they were able to get themselves back out of it.
I just think in the real world, they'd all be dead right now. They just would.
Well,
Bye, Red.
I also liked how
the show would be over. There would be no season 9.
It's true.
We'd be definitely like, wow, who was Red? He was a pile of dust. That's who. Thanos showed up.
But I did like that they also had Red look up at the sky. It's like, oh yeah, we should maybe move into this building over here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But he knew what was up. He knew what was coming.
Well, again, this was really more of a character-based episode. And for me, I feel like this was to show Cooper and Red's varied past and kind of possibly set us up for maybe an inevitable showdown later on, thanks to our foreign friend from the previous week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was whether they have a history or Cooper and original Raymond Reddington have a history or whatever it ends up being. Or if Cooper's,
they have one now.
Yeah, they have one now after 8 seasons, right? After working together this whole time on the task force. So I definitely feel like this was here's the calm before the storm. And the storm is a-coming.
All right, let's start with characters.
All right, well, we open up with a choral version of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's Ave Verum Corpus, K618, as the Icelandic Naval Command is under false attack. Then, as Anne and Red walk through the park, we hear Sunset Village by Beverly Glenn Copeland. Park and Wrestler then close in on Mia. We hear Deeds Plus Thoughts Fat Boy Slim remix of The World's Made Up of This and That. Then at the end of the episode, as Red stands Anne up at the movies, we hear a more harsher tone this time from Beverly Glenn Copeland with the song River Dreams. And you can hear all of those great songs on the playlist, both for Spotify and Apple Music. You can get links to those over on the website at theblacklistexposed.com.
After he stood her up for North by Northwest, which you never, ever stand anyone up for an Alfred Hitchcock movie. It's just against the rules. I was really hoping the music cue would be like, you can't touch this, just from her end. I would have appreciated that.
Even though Red told everybody how the movie ends, so now nobody has to watch it.
That's true. That's true. But honestly, if you haven't watched it by now, what are the odds? I mean, what are the odds? I don't know, but I love Alfred Hitchcock. I do. That's why I do the Presenting Hitchcock podcast. Nice plug. All right. Park, wrestler, just solving the crime, though they do disagree on how to handle Mia. Do you think that was good cop, bad cop, or a real disagreement?
Yeah, I think this was a foreshadowing episode, so I'm going to go with they really had differing opinions on how to handle the situation, and this may put some tension in their relationship going forward.
I agree. Wow. We don't do that very often.
Oh,
cool.
Show's over. See you next week, everybody.
Bah!
The world just stopped on its axis.
Ram did a bit of computer work. Finds out, he had a lady friend. While Cooper is off, they're fighting a war in space. And that's really about all they did was have a little back and forth on fighting a war in space. I don't think Ram did anything else, right?
Then he came to Cooper and said, here's the black budget. He's like, is this about the case? And Cooper's like, close the door. And he's like, I
wanted to know.
Okay.
About the case.
I feel left out, coach.
Feels like a little kid and you can't hear what mommy and daddy are talking about.
Here's one thing though. I felt like we were missing something with Greely in his motivation. I mean,
me too. I didn't quite. I mean, they kind of explained it.
I mean, other than Mia being Mia, but
it wasn't just Mia though. It was the whole government is not paying attention to things they need to pay attention to. So we'll start a war and get people killed so that they have to pay attention because it's too much of a convoluted Congress, which is fair, but it just feels weird.
Which is where I was hoping the whole senator storyline was going to tie into. Like the senator that was Cooper was replacing, maybe he had something involved with why he was doing what he was doing to sell the goods to a foreign country. But alas, it was not.
Yep. Makes sense. All right. Dembe, he rains all over Red's parade. He says, I know what she means to you. He's speaking to Anne. What she represents. Ordinary life, probably. You walked away from an ordinary life a long time ago. And then he reminds Red that you can't have one. Can't have this ordinary life. You'll get her hurt. So what did you think about Dembe's speech here? Now I, just like, was it last week? They're having a lot of these.
He asked me for my opinion and then just kept going to cut me off before I could even start.
Because once you start, I won't get another word in. So I want to get my point in before, you're winding up. Because we're getting a lot of these Red and Dembe conversations, which definitely feels like they're setting us up for some answers of something. And I just get the vibe they're trying to clarify. They're trying to clear some roots. You know what I mean? Like last week, I felt it was very clear that they were establishing once again, no, Red is not a parent of any sort. That's firmly what I believe. And this week, it really felt like they're trying to remind us of what he did, of that house episode, the Tacoma house episode. Was it Tacoma?
Tacoma, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
When he blows up.
When he burns up the house. They're trying to remind us of these things because it feels like they're putting pieces in place to remind us of things so we can start going down a path.
I think that's a fair assessment. Fair assessment.
So all that stuff is important. I think you guys should all pay attention to it.
And
think what you want.
Well, Dembe's still always been his, not necessarily confidant, but conscious as well. And I think he's just reminding Red, like, hey, there are dangers lurking in the shadows. You're not safe being alone. Like, I'm nervous that you're by yourself for this. It's been 3 hours. And Red's like, it has. So even he's not even aware of his surroundings, which just makes it very precarious that there could be something happening to Red. And Dembe is a little bit nervous for that right now.
Could be. And plus, he's sick. So you're not long for this world, probably. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, that Fox Sparrow does a dive bomb and hits your hat and knocks you over. And then That's how you go. It's all over after that.
And now we're at the final two, but a lot happened with these two guys. So Cooper gets an offer to be a senator. Governor Nance and Senator Work decide to bring in Harold Cooper as a United States senator. We get another look at Charlene. We haven't seen her in a while. So those crazy kids are making it work. What did you think about this whole Cooper for senator?
Kind of a bummer that Charlene is now present because all the Koopa Baker fans, I'm so sorry.
Is that a real thing? Koopa Baker?
I just made it up. If it was,
I'm glad you made it up. Dum. I don't want that. That does not roll off the tongue. That rolls off the tongue and then trips you.
Well, then you come up with something better.
No, because he's obviously got Charlene, so it's just Harold and Charlene. Lame.
And what was really nice is that when she leaned over and kissed him in the car, because it's that definitive moment. Because at first it's like, well, sometimes people still call him their wife, even though if they're separated, and they can ride in a car together and still be cordial with each other. So I was glad that they actually made a definitive statement that the relationship is intact, because it sure seemed like the last time we saw them that it was not intact and he was on his own.
Wouldn't it have been funny if they drove by that neighbor's house, waved at him? There's a throwback.
They get drunk at dinner and then they throw champagne bottles or something at it.
That would be great. That would be great. So the senator thing, though, I'm a fan of this. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
for him to be senator.
I think I think when you talk about how does this show go forward into a season 9, season 10, you could promote someone like Harold Cooper to be president, even like Charlene was saying, and then Donald can take over the task force, even though he kind of did that before. But Donald could become the new head of the operation, and then you can bring in some more female blood, to kind of balance out the war room a little bit, and you can keep the show going that way.
You could really push him for answers, aren't you? You're like, you could do all these things and give us some answers. I like it.
It was in the coded message. If you had Greeley's drive, then you'd be able to decode all of that by playing what I just said backwards.
Oh, I got it. I didn't need to decode it. Felt strong. Well, Cooper values Red's opinion, probably because they're both morally ambiguous, but boy, was he a little offended by that. And there's a vote on the black budget, and they want Harold's yay vote for the senator seat. Turns out the senator's son is affiliated with a company that would get $100 million from that budget. And that basically is what Cooper finds out, but he has to go through illegal means to do so, which the senator knows. And once Harold knows that, he doesn't want anything to do with that. He doesn't want to yay something. Now, the point here was he could have lied about it. He could have said, you know what, sure, I'll do it, and then just not done it. But Cooper's too honorable for that. So therefore, he chose not to. What did you think of that move? It felt like a very Harold move.
Yeah, I felt like a very much true to the character, because there's plenty of times where you deviate from character paths in some TV shows that shall remain nameless. But we had this real deep dive introspective into the Cooper character to say, is my aspiration higher than what I would really stand for? And if he wants to become senator, he wants to become senator on his own terms. Even though he knows working for Red over these years has really changed him into a different person that he was probably originally. He was probably even more stoic prior to Red coming in, and he would have said no immediately. I'm wondering if through the course of his deliberation, if he actually thought about it a little bit to say, I could take it and then not do it. So I wonder if it crossed his mind. That's the open question. He made the right decision, but did he want to take it? It
doesn't matter if you wanted to. You're only judged by your actions in my book. You could think of whatever horrible thing you want. If I'm judged by my thoughts, I would be in jail for life. So I don't base any opinion of anyone based on their thoughts, only their actions. And his seat is officially off the book, so he will not be senator. But he asks a good question that, once again, foreshadowing, how does he do it? Find out things that are impossible to find out.
He's a resourceful man.
He's a resourceful man, but there's more to it. Oh, this reminds me. Let's do a little segment I like to call Aaron Was Wrong. It's something that Troy is incapable of doing. It's admitting that I was wrong about something. So last week I shot out a theory about, what's his name? Rakitin?
Rakitin being Katarina working with Red, I believe it was.
Like being the secret hacker, basically. And then I come to find out, minutes after we record that podcast, that Rakitin was actually in episode 4 as a man, as a dude. So he's already been cast. So I missed that. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. Hey, things happen. But I want to apologize because I was wrong. Dun, dun, dun. You could insert angels or something around this. That'd be great.
It was easy to miss, too, because it was like right at the end of the episode, and we're all like, did he just confirm that Red is N13? And you missed the line where he's like, I told Rakuten Liz is off limits. I mean, it was literally in the closed captioning. And we missed it, too, you know?
And I had to go and look at the cast list. I'm like, is he sure that's who he's talking about? And yep, sure enough, Rakuten right there in the cast list for that episode.
The Eastern Friends summon boy.
Yeah. So just confirming. But again, how does he do it? How does he find things that are impossible to find out? And I thought that was interesting because maybe there is still some truth to that Katarina is still alive, but not what you think. Just that she's alive and hiding and helping Red still through intel.
Or he's using the quantum computer from Blacklist Redemption.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's going back in time and predicting everything and then fitting it into Red's brain.
Okay. So, like, once again, this episode feels like a precursor to whatever's coming between Red and Cooper over the desires of that Eastern friend. But we get a lot of Red romance, right? A little Raymond love, a little Reddy meow. I don't know what I'm trying to do with that. It's just not working. But Red runs into Anne, again, the Cape May warbler, which you love. She lost her husband. She's on a final run for some Broadway shows. She has Dear Evan Hansen left. It's the last one, which is, by the way, it's about Evan Hansen, a high school senior with social anxiety disorder and his journey of self-discovery and acceptance following the suicide of a fellow classmate. Just throwing it out there in case somebody wants to dive deep into that. And they end up talking quite a while, and they go for some chocolate, which they get some red wine. What do you think about this whole relationship with Anne? Because originally we thought, oh, maybe she's connected, maybe she's a plant. I don't think so by the end. I think Anne was just a random person to remind Red that he will never have this.
Yeah, I mean, when you see Anne the first time, you're like, well, maybe she's Jennifer's mother or whatever her name was from the Freiburg Confidence. Then people are like, well, maybe she's the woman from the shelter back in Rosviet when she came out of the ocean. And that's how, if you're in the Red Arena camp. And nope, turns out she was just a lady to set up for a future story. Nothing.
Which worked great. It worked great.
Yeah.
But that proves once again, if you listen to Anthony Pepe last week, where he said, sometimes you guys overthink it. That might be one time where we overthink it. Probably. Because everybody has to be connected somehow. Sometimes it's just nice when a storyline is like I really love this. I love this. This whole storyline, I loved it. I don't know how Blacklist fans are going to respond. We're recording before I've seen the reactions from them. But man, I loved it. I just thought it was nice and warm. And she was wonderful. LaShans is her name. She was wonderful. I loved it.
And then if you're like us who like to dig into every little detail, you'll be happy to know that she was drawing a red fox sparrow. There are different types of fox sparrows. So the fact that she was drawing a red one when you saw the drawing of the picture, that is a red fox sparrow. And she also had that nice conversation about how she likes the nests and finds it's interesting and how they spend all this time building up a nest, building a brood, and then they just get up and leave. So again, pointing back to the Red had a family and something happened to their family, depending on which theory camp he picked up, and walked away.
Walked away from the family. Mm-hmm. But you didn't really say much about the actual relationship. Did you like it as much as I did? Because I really loved it.
I thought we were going to finish the relationship before we dissected it completely. But no,
well, here, I'll finish it. Yeah. So Red invites Anne to see North by Northwest. And before that, he mentions Rear Window and Strangers on a Train. But he mentions Rear Window. I just want to reflect once again on the greatest movie of all time, which is Rear Window. Such a beautiful film.
Maybe someone was actually throwing a nod out to you. Like, wink, wink.
I have, maybe. I'm going to, you know what? I never got a Heinrich's Hospital. I might have to just take it. I'll just swallow it and enjoy it. But I will say, do you know, I have seen that movie over 150 times.
Some would say that that's even more obsessive than me and my theory.
Truly. I stopped counting at 150, but I've seen it over 150 times. True story.
Is that because you were like something about the character you resonate with, or
I don't know why I love it so much. I think it's the first movie where I learned to appreciate filmmaking and how Hitchcock how he made characters without hardly any dialogue. I mean, everybody in that movie from a window, from a distance, is a character. He's observing them from afar. It's just, it's a beautiful film all around. The relationship between Lisa and Jeffries LB Jeffries is wonderful. I just love everything about it. Plus, I always want to know, what did he do with his wife's body? She's so scattered. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. All right, sorry.
Like that's like 2 Hitchcock movies that are now ruined for people.
I don't think it's ruined. I mean, the whole movie is about did a guy kill his wife? So I don't know. But if you've never seen Rear Window, it's, my opinion, better than Psycho, better than Birds, better than all. It's the best Alfred Hitchcock movie. In fact, it's the best movie ever made.
I mean, speaking of which, I mean, Psycho, it is his mother that's taking out people.
Oh, Jesus. Just stop. Stop. All right. So,
like, I tied that one in there. That's pretty good.
He invites, I just can't with you. I just can't. So he invites her to a midnight showing at the Village East, even has her change her flight. This is a dick move. He has her change her flight and then stands her up. Stands her up.
He doesn't force her. Like, she doesn't have to change the flight. She doesn't have to show up. That's on her. That's not on Red.
But he didn't show up. Like, here's about in my mind. Okay. I get Denby's pep talk. Love the pep talk. I get it. Can't have this. Can't touch this. I get it. On the same token, she's already there. One movie isn't going to kill anything. One movie isn't going to hurt her. So instead of standing her up, he could have went to the movie and then just said, "This has been wonderful. Thank you for a memory." Instead she changed her flight, missed some plans back home, all for this guy that bailed on her for work.
Yeah, well, and I think it
hurt.
There's got to be,
because I like this love story, so it hurt.
And it did. And I think maybe that was the intent, because he could have called her from anywhere, right? But he specifically called her sitting right outside the theater. Like, if he couldn't make the movie, he could have at least gotten out of the car and talked to her face to face and just said, "Hey, I know we said meet here. I'm so sorry. I got to run. It's been great. Thank you so much." Kiss her on the hand, go back to the car and drive away. It could be, but there's a reason why they did it the way they did it. Because then she was all like, "Don't worry, I didn't change my flight. I'm actually back home." So I think that almost hurt Raymond more than, I'm sorry, I broke my own rule. Hold that phone. Back that up, Troy. I think that she hurt Red more. Can't call him Raymond. Got to be very specific.
Lord. Well, he calls himself Raymond, so I think it's okay.
Well, because he's got to keep the lie going, but we all know as the fans who's Raymond Reddington and who's Red Reddington. But I think she hurt Red more than Red hurt her in that moment. I think we're supposed to understand that and feel that in that moment, because he knows that he'll never have that moment again in his entire life. Mm-hmm. Like, death will come before he has a normal relationship again. Yeah,
the wonderful thing about that was she says she didn't cancel her flight to spare his feelings. Like, and that is why it obviously hits him more, because she's such a selfless woman. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's not going to throw it back at him. She's not going to scorn him. She's not going to scold him, one of those words. She instead says, "You know what? I didn't do that. You're okay. You're off the hook. Don't worry about it. Thanks for thinking of me. Thanks for the phone call." And that was a beautiful, I really love the romance. I mean, it's sad that it didn't work out, but I really loved it. But it came to pass that Red cannot have an ordinary life. That was the lesson that we were being taught this episode.
Definitely. Yeah. Overall, the relationship, I thought it was a great pause. Maybe that's what it was. This was the episode where you can just like catch your breath, because there is some major crap coming down the line. And it just had that little sense of levity in a very chaotic world.
I really appreciated it. I feel like we haven't had character moments that weren't so-and-so wants to kill so-and-so or something along those lines, or somebody's trying to hide a murderer or something. So it was nice to get just a quiet character moment and some self-reflection in the characters. And for Cooper and Red, this really worked for that. Even if the overall blacklister wasn't great.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of that with Wrestler and Park, too. Just understanding that Wrestler's still on this side and Park is still on that side. So even in that brief moment, you get a little bit more about their relationship at the same time.
Yeah, we're both reminded they're hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Hypocrites. Well, I want to take a second to say thank you to those of you that are supporting the show by going to Patreon. That's Patreon. Patreon.com/TheBlacklistGSM. Special big thanks to our honorary Blacklister, Patricia. Also, a special shout out to our task force members, Judy and Sharon, Rory, Karen, Bobby, Jens, and now Mary, all official task force members. All of these people receive cool gifts from us, and you can get a cool gift as well for donating at the $20 level or higher. You want a cool t-shirt, coffee mug? You know you do. You don't have to stay at the $20 level forever. Just a few months to get the cool gifts.
And if you really want one that says I Heart New York, we can make that happen.
Troy can make that happen.
I can. Statue of Liberty, maybe, whatever you want. Even the Eiffel Tower. We also have that $5 level where that $5 level gets you access to the podcast before anybody else, including the $20 and $50 people as well. So don't feel like you only just have to give $5. But if you give $5, you will get access to all of the interviews, all of the podcasts before the rest of the world right after the show ends. And you can do that by throwing $5 in the hat. So they say fill the fedora over at Patreon, patreon.com/TheBlacklistGSM. Stay tuned. We got more stuff coming up, including Cooper's Chronicles right after this.
Good evening, and welcome to Presenting Hitchcock, a podcast devoted to me. I would love to stick around, but you know what I always say. Make your audience suffer as much as possible. You can now find Presenting Hitchcock on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, Dembe Loyals, this is Hisham Tawfiq. You are listening to Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Welcome to Cooper's Chronicles, that part of the show where we listen to wise words from the Coop. Yes, Director Harold himself. This week, then you can vote for your favorite in our weekly web poll on the website at theblacklistexposed.com. This week, our first clip from Cooper comes when he informs Red of his Senate aspirations.
Senator? I wasn't aware you had political ambitions.
I don't, but apparently the governor thinks I should.
Well, what does Charlene think?
I haven't told her yet.
You're telling me before telling your wife? Harold, please tell me there's no trouble in paradise.
No. I value your opinion, and I already know what she thinks. The governor's got an ulterior motive.
I've always said you married up.
So he's interested in me for more than my undeniable charm. I'm black. I'm law enforcement. I check some boxes. Is that so bad?
Not those boxes, no, but I'm in another one of your boxes, Harold, and if the governor knows that, he may be under the false impression that you are prone to moral ambiguity.
Because I work with you.
Because you put up with me, who I am, what I do. Because at times you look the other way.
I choose the greater good.
Which I see as admirable, and the governor may see as situational. Clamato, tornado, typhoon. Let's talk about why I called.
Our second comes when Cooper and Red share a cup of joe.
I'm sorry about the Senate.
He was right. Because of our relationship, Warwick assumed I'd be morally ambiguous.
He assumed wrong.
Did he? I'm not so sure.
You accept that the world is gray. That's a virtue, not a vice.
I know the task force does good work. I know people like Greely are a threat to the country, and we keep them off the street. But then I think about what else I do. Ordering a drone strike on an American citizen without due process. Not reporting Agent Keene's criminal activities.
You've taken calculated risks, which have been amply rewarded.
Whether that's true, only time will tell. What I know now is that working with you has changed me. It's changed all of us. None of us are the same people we were when this began.
I'm not the same either. I'm better. I think you're the reason why.
Which was your favorite this week? If you agree that you need to be morally ambiguous, vote #CoopBox. Or if you believe navigating the middle is challenging, vote #CoopVirtue.
All right, Special Agent Intel. This is where we hear from you, the listeners. Lucas Bernstein says, Troy, I think we're never going to find out what Red whispered. When the truth is revealed, they will still leave us guessing forever what Red said. My personal opinion, you should be able to figure it out once we know some stuff. But anyway, he continues. My theory is that Red had a daughter named Elizabeth who died. Out of obligation to Katerina, he gave Masha a new identity. Watching over Elizabeth may be him trying to atone for not being able to save his real daughter, and also an obligation. I think he had that conversation a long back in the early days about that.
Well, we talked about there might be potential of 2 kids. We had the 2-kid theory, but this is
he lost a family.
This is a new twist on it, I think, a little bit.
No, I remember talking about this as he sees her as a father figure, not her father.
But giving Masha the identity of his deceased daughter. Is that a new twist, or have we talked about that in the past too?
I mean, it's 7-8 years, man. But let's just go with it. I like it. I like it. Regardless, I like it. It
sounded new to me. That's why I included it in the show.
Okay.
Aaron knows I remember a lot, so it must be new. Carell said the lines get blurrier, the confusion stronger. Granted, we still don't know for sure that Liz is pulling the strings of current events. There were no scenes that show her and the lawyer, the freelancer, or Chemical Mary face to face. But they all refer to Keen by name, and Red's scenes with Dembe, the lawyer, and the maid make no sense if he is the one behind the scheme. For now, I'm going to assume that Liz is doing what it seems she is doing. I think the whole Liz off-screen works, and it addresses my problem from the last message about her not being a credible threat to Red. With us not seeing her actions, only the outcomes, it helps to boost her reputation. What do you think of that, Aaron? You agree?
Yeah, I think it works. Sure. I mean, it makes like she's building her own little Scarface world to rival Red in the meantime. I just don't know why you'd need to do that. If I had 39 million, I'd just be gone. You'd never see me again. I wouldn't care about you or past or anything else. I just wouldn't care.
Yeah, I'd buy your banana plantation island for that much money.
Absolutely.
He continues, there's a lot of discussion about how Keen hasn't done anything worse than Red has been doing for the whole show, and that is true for sure.
Sure is.
The problem is that Red has always been established as a murderer. We as viewers don't care about Red murdering people because that is basically what we like about him. Him being able to kill innocent people and walk away also fits with his theme of being a sin eater. Liz has not been established as a murderer. Right now, we are supposed to believe she is basically a good person doing bad stuff because no other way is available to her. I advocated for it in my previous messages. From my point of view, the problem now is that her side was valid because she was morally in the right, and she threw that away in the last episode as far as I'm concerned. I was willing to buy the hospital bomb. The amount of explosives obviously wouldn't destroy a large portion of the hospital, although the limited to the room excuse is just nonsense.
It isn't. If you know explosives, you can do a concentrated blast, but that's beside the point.
She had no idea what was happening in the room. She could have easily killed a doctor or a patient in the next room, but whatever. The plane, though? I don't care she let the info on the sabotage slip. The plane was saved with seconds to spare in a scheme where those seconds could have slipped away a million times.
Agree with you 100% on that one. 100%.
They flew to Turkey, then they flew to France. The messages were relayed from Aram through 3 people to the guy who pulled the USB. If you're willing to let the rescue cut it so close, you are willing to wager the rescue won't make it in time and the people will die.
Agreed. Yeah, that was not a great look. For sure. For sure.
So would Red do such a thing? I think so. Would Liz? Well, it seems so. If she would, she went as low as him, her moral advantage gone. And then I don't care about her fight anymore because it's just a fight between 2 bad guys for me. Red is by far the cooler one. One last point, was it all so convoluted? If she still wanted to kill Red, she could have waited for him to come out of the hospital, meet up with him as he wanted, and just shoot him. I guess it is pretty much that simple. Or just use any plan less complicated
Freudian slip,
than making him torture his friend, steal his money, and then whatever this thing with Chemical Mary is. What is the point?
Yeah, I do agree. I think they need to earn what that means, what all this stuff means. Like, it better be building to like an epic plot point. I mean, or an epic retribution plan. I don't know. I don't know what it needs to build to, but it needs to build to something, because there are a lot of choices that feel not so Liz-like. And I agree, the planes one was not. I just feel like that's a stretch to buy that. Don't worry, it'll be all good, because they're all going to save the day. You're putting a whole lot of faith. Don't get me wrong, all intelligent people that you're working with here, but you're putting a whole lot of faith in the possibility of people figuring out your plan. And if they don't, those people will just randomly die. That's a stretch. So I agree with that 100%. The concentrated blast thing, I was in the military. Yes, it can be done. It just can. And it's not as hard to learn as was the guy with the 30 years of experience. It's not, but that was far more, the planes was definitely far more complicated.
Yes, I think two schools of thought. One is, in order for the story to progress the way the story is progressing, it has to be a Liz and Red showdown, or you have to have some big twist. And I don't know which one I want right now. Do I want the Liz and Red showdown and only one survives? Or do I get the big twist? Like it's actually someone else pulling the strings and maybe Liz has been captured or something.
It could be. Could be interesting. I mean, obviously we'll find out before the end of the year, but, and we're 4 episodes in, no Liz sighting now? This fourth
this was
one?
8? Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right. Last special agent intel, Monica Stolfa. Okay, my theory. I've noticed that we never see Liz's face. We just get the back of a woman's head. Remember that the writers are notorious for making the audience see one thing while something else is going on. Liz will never risk the lives of innocent people just to capture Chemical Mary. Someone is using her to get intel on the FBI and maybe Red's true identity. I think that someone is the weird Russian dude. He probably has hired Skip to keep tabs on Red, but now has an opportunity by using Liz for his own goals. Russian dude probably is holding Agnes, which was a mistake of Liz for taking Agnes with her. I just want to go on record as we should call them Russian dude from now on. That dude and Russian dude. That's how we should differentiate. What do you think about Monica's comments?
The friend in the East is now the Russian dude.
Russian dude. What do you think of Monica's
comments? Isn't it
comments?
bad enough we call them goons? I mean, come on. Little DEI in the show here would be nice. It's possible, I guess. I think that's an interesting theory. Someone would kidnap Agnes and then Liz would have to do things on behalf of somebody else because they actually want to take Red down. That could be an interesting storyline. Sure.
Very well could be. I'm very fascinated. Very fascinated. Another theory that because of the earlier comment that I could have sworn we talked about before, but I'm not going to go dig through the episodes. I always wondered if Raymond Reddington had a friend, a very close friend.
That was not a twin.
It was not a twin that tried to help Katerina because of Masha, and that led to his family getting killed. And so, he felt guilty, so that's why he did all this and da-da-da-da. I always wondered if that's like a play. Because I do think it has to be someone close to one of the two. It has to be, he could be somebody who was part of a program and both worked under Dom, or it could be a guy who was just close to either Raymond or Katerina and just needed to disappear for reasons we don't know yet. And it could have been like Raymond's best friend, and his family died because he tried to help Katerina. Maybe he got caught up with Katerina too, fell in love with her too. Who knows? I mean, she's very pretty. I could see it. Everybody just falling in love with her crazy like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So many theories.
It's time to give us your answer.
Yes. Well, that's going to conclude this discussion. So now's the time to recommend the Blacklist to your friend, your enemy, or your neighbor. When you do, also recommend they listen and subscribe to the Blacklist Exposed podcast. All the case profiles can be found at theblacklisexposed.com and everywhere great podcasts can be heard.
And if you missed a show, just a reminder that you can get the current 5 episodes over on the Peacock. So you can get the current season 8 streaming if you do miss it on Friday nights here in the States. Otherwise, Netflix for all your previous episodes. For more great Aaron and Troy hijinks, though, follow us on your favorite social media outlet. I'm at Troy Heinrichs on the Twitter. He is at Aaron Smirks. Together, we are at the Blacklist GSM. Talk about the show, the podcast, or share your favorite Hitchcock movie.
Okay, now I'm excited to do that. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question. Will we see Anne again? I hope so. I really do. I like Anne a lot.
It was a good time. It's good. Good episode.
I would have went to the movie with her. Red, you jackass.
You just wanted to go because it was a Hitchcock movie.
and is very pretty. So that would have been nice too. But yeah, really, it's the Hitchcock movie. Honestly, I would have went. Take care, guys.
All right, we'll see you next week. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsider.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.
I would wait till she left and then went. If she went in the theater, I'd still would have went and just sat in the back.
Why do you think Red was actually there? He's like,
maybe.
Leave already, woman. I still want to see him jump off.
Come on, will you go back to your hotel already? You got a flight to catch? God.